She was only 19 when the truth came crashing down like a wave she hadn't seen coming. Sitting in the cold doctor's office, wrapped in a thin hospital gown and trembling from more than just the sterile air, Mira tried to process the words echoing in her mind. You cannot have children. I'm sorry. For most, that would have been a medical condition, a sad but manageable reality. For Mira, it was a death sentence. She was born in a rural, conservative village where a woman's value was measured by the number of children she could give her husband. Her parents had raised her with strict traditions, preparing her for a good marriage, not education, not ambition. Just marriage and motherhood. So when the doctor's verdict became known, her entire identity began to unravel. She didn't even know how her parents found out. Perhaps they had bribed the nurse. All she knew was that when she returned home, her mother wouldn't meet her eyes, and her father didn't speak a word. That night, over boiled lentils and silence, her fate was sealed. 3 days later, a black SUV rolled into the dusty courtyard. 2 unfamiliar men stepped out. Her father called her outside. His voice was stiff, formal, like he was reading off a contract. These men have paid a good price. You will go with them. You are of no use here. Mira didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood there, numb and quiet, while the world she knew slipped through her fingers. One of the men handed her a worn-out bag with her clothes and a thick envelope to her father. No one looked back as they drove off. Not even her mother. The ride lasted hours. The men didn't speak to her except to grunt directions. At some point, she realized they weren't taking her to a house, but to a compound. A place where young women like her, rejected and forgotten, were kept like cattle. A man in a gold chain inspected her like she was a sack of grain. Mira's eyes were hollow as she was led to a locked room. Days turned into weeks. They fed her, gave her soap, kept her locked. She never knew what they were waiting for until one day, a gruff voice called from behind the bars, "This one's been requested." They didn't tell her where she was going. They didn't have to. She expected another monster. Someone cruel. Maybe old. Maybe dangerous. She didn't expect the bearded man in a weather-worn flannel coat and heavy boots, who stood awkwardly at the gate of the compound like he didn't belong. "Name's Eli," he said when they brought her out. "I live in the mountains. Got 4 kids. I ain't looking for anything but help." Mira blinked. "Don't worry. I don't expect, you're safe. I just need someone decent. My kids need someone." He signed a paper. They handed her over like property. The drive up the mountain was silent, except for the rumble of Eli's truck. The road twisted and turned through forests that whispered with wind and pine. Mira stared at the blur of green, wondering what kind of fate she had landed into now. Eli's cabin stood tall but tired at the edge of a clearing. Smoke curled gently from the chimney, and the scent of firewood greeted them. 4 children ran out as the truck stopped, 2 boys and 2 girls, each with messy hair and suspicious eyes. "This is Miss Mira," Eli told them. "She'll be staying with us a while." No one cheered. No one smiled. The first few days were quiet. Mira cooked, cleaned, did the laundry. She kept her head down, afraid to look Eli in the eyes. But he never touched her. Never even entered her room without knocking. He rose early, chopped wood, worked all day, and came home exhausted. He left her wages on the table every Sunday, cash in an envelope with her name on it. The children were slower to thaw. They watched her carefully. Sarah, the eldest at 12, was the boldest. She asked questions, about Mira's accent, her clothes, her scars. Tommy, the youngest, would quietly leave wildflowers by Mira's window each morning, thinking she wouldn't notice. One evening, as a storm raged outside and the power flickered, Mira found herself sitting by the fire with all 4 children nestled around her. She told them a story her grandmother once told her, about a girl made of stars who could not cry, but made flowers bloom where her feet touched the earth. When she finished, Sarah whispered, "Will you stay?" Mira hesitated. She didn't answer. The months rolled by, like pages turning in a quiet book. The children grew attached. Eli's silences turned to simple conversations. He told her how his wife died during the last winter, how he didn't know how to raise kids alone. He never asked what happened to Mira. He just let her be. One autumn morning, while hanging clothes on the line, Mira felt something unfamiliar rise in her chest. Not fear, not grief. It was a gentle warmth, a kind of belonging. Later that night, Eli found her staring at the stars from the porch. You know, he said quietly, they told me you couldn't have children. But I think that doesn't matter none. She didn't turn to him. You've been more of a mother to my kids than anyone ever could have been. And I know I paid to bring you here, but I never bought you. I never wanted that. You're free to go. Anytime. Her lips trembled. Where would I go? He didn't answer. She turned to him finally. Do you want me to stay? Eli looked down, then up. Only if you want to. And she did. Years passed. Mira never had children of her own. But every scraped knee she kissed, every bedtime story she told, every warm meal she placed on the table, wove her into the heart of that mountain home like thread into quilt. The woman once sold for her infertility became the soul of a family she didn't give birth to, but saved. A woman discarded for what she couldn't give became cherished for everything she did. And in the silence of those pine trees, Mira bloomed, without shame, without pain, finally, freely, like the girl made of stars.